Alright, guys, I just watched Weird, the Al Yankovic story. This has been on everyone's radar for quite a while. This movie played at TIFF. I was around during TIFF, but I didn't get to see this movie because it was a midnight movie madness. And I went to see VHS 99 instead because that seemed a little more interesting to me. But not to say that I wasn't interested in this movie at all. I was very interested in this movie. I grew up listening to Weird Al Yankovic parodies on YouTube. I remember my brother showing me a few. The biggest one we laughed at was White and Nerdy. That was our favorite. It was so funny to us. But yeah, like everyone who's in that age group, we kind of laughed at Weird Al Yankovic's shtick. Oh my god, that's a tongue twister. Weird Al Yankovic's shtick. There we go. I really like Weird Al as a person. He seems like a chill dude. He doesn't take himself seriously, which is so refreshing given that everyone now takes themselves way too seriously. Here's someone who's like, you know what? I just do song parodies. That's my thing. And here he comes with a parody, not of a song, but of a biopic. That's right, he's doing the jump to motion pictures. He has made the jump to motion pictures before with movies like UHF. Weird, the Al Yankovic story was kind of disappointing to me for a few reasons, and I'm gonna get into it. What I did like about the movie is that this movie kind of acts as like a revisionist history of Weird Al Yankovic, and that's what I thought was funny about it. Weird Al wrote the script to this movie along with the director of this movie, and you can really feel that because there's some things that are thrown in there that are just totally revisionist, and it feels like Weird Al is just trying to change people's views of himself. There's this recurring joke that goes on that Michael Jackson ripped off Beat It from him, which he did a song parody of Beat It. And then there's the whole subplot with him marrying Madonna, which is completely not true. It makes for some interesting humor in the mix. The only problem is with this movie is that I kind of didn't laugh all that much. And I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I think there's a few reasons why I didn't laugh all that much during this movie. For one, I saw this concept done better before. Dewey Cox is a hilarious movie to me. There's so many funny moments, and I feel like Dewey Cox does a better job at poking fun of biopic cliches. I kind of wish this movie went more for that, because the biopic genre is still alive somehow, which I don't know how, but they still keep getting nominated for Oscars, and they're getting worse and worse, like Bohemian Rhapsody was a terrible movie. And I feel like they could have done more poking fun of the genre. There are some moments where they poke fun of the genre, but they could have done a better job. Like Dewey Cox has that famous scene where he walks into a room and everyone's trying drugs. And, get out of here, Dewey! You don't want none of this shit! Like, just moments like that, I feel like this movie could have gone more for that. Instead, that's why I kind of gravitate more towards Dewey Cox, just because it overall does a better job at making fun of biopic cliches. This movie does make fun of biopic cliches, though. Some cliches like the stereotypical dad who doesn't want their son to pursue their dream, and then he becomes cocky at a certain point in the movie because he has like a love interest, and the love interest is a bad influence. Those are definitely present in the movie, but I don't feel like they do anything clever with them other than just point them out. And because of that, this movie just ends up being a biopic movie while making fun of biopic movies. So you're kind of just following the same beats as a biopic movie, and you know that the movie is making fun of it, but you're kind of still watching it, which makes for kind of a lackluster movie in my opinion. What this feels like is that it feels like a very extended Funny or Die sketch. And this movie was produced by Funny or Die, but yeah, it just feels like this should have been like a Funny or Die sketch instead of it being extended to a 2-hour movie, which definitely the 2-hour runtime is way too long. This should have been a tight 90 minutes in my opinion. What also disappointed me a lot about this movie is I went in without having watched the trailers. I feel like this movie has a very cheap look, and if you're trying to poke fun at those Oscar bait biopic movies, I feel like you should try to replicate that very cinematic look as closely as possible. And I feel like that kind of just went to the wayside. They were more preoccupied about the comedy of the film itself and not as much about getting that look back. But when you look at parody movies like, say, a Blazing Saddles opens with those beautiful landscapes and that beautiful song, "He rode a blazing saddle," and it feels like you're watching a Western while the movie is parodying Westerns. And I kind of wish this movie did that. Instead, it kind of just has this cheap YouTube sketch look. It should have had this more grandiose look while making fun of those movies it's poking fun at. And I do feel like Daniel Radcliffe is trying his best in this movie, but I just think it's a horrible miscast, because you can either go the Will Ferrell route where you get a comedic actor who's going to punch everything up, or you go the Leslie Nielsen route, who's more known, at the time was more known for being a dramatic actor, and he's really good at saying everything with a very straight face. But Daniel Radcliffe kind of doesn't pick a lane. He kind of just goes for the middle. So I feel like his performance was a little misdirected. It's not really to the fault of Daniel Radcliffe, more to the fault of the direction of this movie. I also think that, and some people may disagree with me, I don't think he can pull off the American accent all that well. And they could have done some humor relating to that, relating to how sometimes these Oscar bait biopic movies will cast a Brit as an American just for some prestige thing, but it doesn't really work. They could have done something with that. They could have also done something with the fact that there's a huge height difference between Daniel Radcliffe and Weird Al, but they don't really do it, so you're just like, so are they in on the joke or not? I just think this movie could have been a bit more playful with its premise, the same way that Dewey Cox was playful with its premise. That's not to say this movie's completely void of humor. There are two scenes in particular that made me laugh. One of them is a cameo, where I'm not going to say who the actor is, but they do a reference to the Wolfman, the disc jockey. He shows up in the movie, and there's like a bunch of celebrities around them. That made me laugh. But at a point, it did feel like overkill with like so many cameos like thrown in there. I get what they were trying to do, but it was just kind of not working for me. But that scene itself made me laugh, especially the person who played Wolfman. And then there's another scene where they're poking fun at like the scenes in biopics where they get a random stroke of inspiration. They do it with the My Bologna song, which I felt like that scene had me laughing. And they do something at the end that pokes fun of a cliche I fucking hate with biopics. And I was like, thank you, someone's finally calling this out. I just didn't laugh in this movie as much as I thought I would. It just feels like an overly long Funny or Die sketch. I feel like the look of the movie should have been more there. You are making a Weird Al Yankovic movie. He does have some clout to him. You would expect there to be a bit of a higher budget here. So yeah, just for all those reasons, I think this is a bit of a lackluster movie, and they could have done a lot more with the premise. I was a little disappointed in this movie. It was probably my most disappointing movie of the year. Not to say I didn't like it at all, but I just thought it could have been a lot better. Guys, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but have you seen this movie? It's playing on Roku, which you can watch it on Roku, I guess. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Take care.